I want to begin by congratulating my honourable friend, the member for Erith and Thamesmead, for securing this very important debate. And I want to echo the words of the member for Brent Central about racism, that it's not enough to be yourself not racist, you have to be an anti-racist, because if you are not part of the solution, you are just another part of the problem. Now, I've been really pleased to listen to contributions today, but most of them anyway, because every time I hear about Black history, I learn more and more. And like most in this house, I never learnt Black history at school, and the majority of my learning came from my love of reading and frequent visits to the Brixton Library. I love learning about Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, and those international perspectives are so important, but the UK has its own rich civil rights struggle. And when British children learn, I also want them to learn about this civil rights struggle. I want them to learn about the Bristol bus boycotts, Mary Seacole, Claudia Jones, Olive Morris, CLR James, and the first Black members to enter this house, and much more. Now, those who don't think it's necessary to learn Black history in schools, or that it should be confined to certain lessons, have to acknowledge how damaging it is not to see yourself reflected in your history. Because Black history is British history, and how could we possibly learn about this country in its fullness and how it came to be if we don't learn about slavery and colonialism and the impacts that it's directly had on how our country is today? Now, this debate is extremely timely, as you would have just heard, because we found recently that no subject has received more signatories for parliamentary petitions than that to see Black history taught as part of our national curriculum. And yet the government has refused campaigning organisations like the Black Curriculum's request to see our curriculum change. Coupled with the new guidance about not teaching anti-capitalist texts in schools, I find myself a little bit suspicious, because I also didn't learn about the miners' strikes, the poll tax riots, or the achievements of trade unions at school. Decolonising our education is every bit as much about class as it is about race. Because heaven forbid working class kids are taught about movements for change, they might start to get ideas that they have power as citizens, and that when they see injustice they should challenge it, and if they persevere they might just win. Now, I remember the first thing I wrote in my Year 7 history book in Mr. Smart's class: we study the past to live the present with an eye on the future. And I believe we need to address our shameful past and our shameful present and look to a future of racial equality. We have to be willing to do that to inform and inspire the next generation, because nobody is born racist. Racism is ignorance, and what is education if not the absence of ignorance? This history, I believe, is not something that we need to be added on at the end of a lesson, or one day a week, or one day of the year, or one single section of our curriculum, or even this 1 month. Too often the burden is left to our teachers to move things around and find time. But recently I was proud to go to Streatham Wells School in my constituency and find 9 and 10-year-olds learning about unconscious bias. I applaud our teachers that make this special effort and ask the government to follow their lead. And when we learn about Black history, it has to be done properly. Yes, we must learn about our allies, like William Wilberforce, and what they did to help the struggle, but as the Right Honourable Member for Islington North pointed out, slavery ended because of the slave revolts. It ended because of those people that were willing to risk their lives. Colonialism ended because people were no longer willing to have this country rule over them. And we need to applaud those sheroes and heroes in history. We need to look at people like Toussaint Louverture and Nanny of the Maroons, and Na Asantewaa, who shares the same heritage as myself and the member for Erith and Thamesmead. And we need to look at it again as a form of reparations. Now, in my maiden speech, I spoke about reparations, and I spoke about how it doesn't have to be about just giving large sums of money away, but looking at how we address things such as giving certain artefacts back, such as offering an apology. And I would add to that educational reparations, decolonising our education. And too often, whenever we challenge racism in this house, we are called out, we are told we do not recognise progress, we are told we do not like our country. And I would like to say that we are the progress. To look at the benches on both sides of the house shows the progress that we have made, but I came to this house to change things, not to just clap my hands for the mediocre things that have gone in the past. And to quote a modern-day philosopher, and naturally a Streatham native, the rapper Santan Dave, least racist is still racist. We have a long way to go. So when I challenge racism in my country, I don't want anybody to tell me that I don't love my country and I should go back to somewhere else. Because what more love could you have for your country than to make it the very best place in the world for all people to live, no matter the colour of their skin? Thank you.